The Renters' Rights Act 2025 introduces new rules that will transform pet ownership for 11 million private renters in England, giving them the legal right to request a pet, something landlords can no longer unreasonably refuse. From May 1st, 2026, this landmark legislation is set to end automatic pet bans, the kind that have forced countless families to choose between their home and their pet. But even with this new law, there's a loophole, and people are still being quietly rejected. I'll explain how in this video. For decades, the rental market has been hostile to pet owners. Only 7% of landlords in the UK advertise their properties as pet-friendly, despite nearly half of all households owning a pet. This disparity has created a real crisis, with housing issues becoming one of the most common reasons for pet rehoming in the UK. I looked into the statistics, and they tell a heartbreaking story. Cats Protection took in over 1,000 cats in 2024, simply because landlords wouldn't allow them. Dogs Trust receives thousands of inquiries from dog owners struggling to find accommodation, around 15% of all their rehoming requests. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they're families being torn apart by an unfair system. But here's what makes this even more frustrating for me. The fears behind these pet bans don't really hold up. A study by the University of Huddersfield analysed data from over 2,000 landlords and found that pets actually cause less damage than tenants without pets. On average, pet-related damage costs around £300 per tenancy. For non-pet tenants, it's closer to £775. I found even more striking. 76% of landlords reported no pet damage at all, 84% had no noise complaints, and 73% saw no increase in wear and tear. Meanwhile, tenants with pets stayed longer, around 63 months on average compared to 58 months, which means lower turnover costs for landlords. Despite this evidence, 92% of landlords remain unhappy about the new rules. According to the National Residential Landlords Association's State of Lettings Report 2025. This resistance largely comes from outdated perceptions and a system that previously allowed blanket refusals without justification. The new law changes this by amending the Housing Act 1988. From May 1st, 2026, tenants can formally request to keep a pet in writing, including a description of the animal. Landlords then have 28 days to respond, and they cannot refuse without a valid reason. That could include property suitability, lease restrictions, or welfare concerns. But vague fears about damage, that's no longer enough. And for the first time, renters can challenge unfair refusals through a new ombudsman without needing to go to court. However, I've noticed a loophole. Tenants can only request a pet after they've secured the tenancy, not while they're still searching, which means, in reality, prospective tenants can still be filtered out before they ever get that right. And that's something I find personally frustrating because a friend of mine is going through exactly this right now. She has a small dog, she's viewed over 30 properties, applied for 6, and been rejected every time. The only explanation she's been given is that the landlord chose another tenant, but she suspects it's because of her dog. I also find it interesting that the final version of the Renters' Rights Act removed a controversial insurance requirement after landlord opposition. Initially, landlords could require tenants to purchase pet damage insurance, but this was withdrawn in July 2025, meaning traditional deposits must now cover any pet-related costs if you're a landlord worried about financial exposure. The data suggests those concerns may be overblown, as Owen Sharp, Chief Executive of Dogs Trust, explains. These new pet-friendly renters' rights mean the benefits of pet ownership are no longer limited to homeowners. Research consistently shows that pet owners are lower-risk tenants. They stay longer and cause less damage. This legislation represents more than just a policy change. It's about recognizing that pet ownership shouldn't be a privilege reserved only for homeowners and for millions of renters. May 1st, 2026 can't come soon enough. Have you been rejected because of a pet? Tell me your story below.